let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. I want to talk. So let's just be real about this. I don't really understand the Minnesota Timberwolves. I know that they're good right now, largely on the back of their defense. Like I've watched them play quite a bit. Jaden McDaniels looks phenomenal on defense. Rudy Gobert, I think, is starting to figure some things out defensively as well. There are a number of things that are happening on top of the superstar turn that Anthony Edwards has made over the course of the second half, or I guess like the middle third of this season, if we look at it from a full season perspective.
Yeah, at the expense of sounding like a hater, I think it's more star than superstar turn for Ant. Like I think I would consider him like a legitimate all-star now. I'm probably not quite superstar yet for me. Um, Everything for Minnesota has been exactly like you mentioned. It just feels like when the season started, like none of the gears were going in the same direction. It feels
Yeah.
like they're at least starting to have a couple click now. Like the biggest one, well, not the biggest one. One of the ones that I think has been really pivotal has just been D'Angelo Russell. He's been really good, man. Like the defense, it is what it is. You know what it's going to be. But I think his decision making's been a little bit more reined in. And the shot's been, I mean, he's been money from outside. I tweeted this out this morning. Nobody has hit. I think he's ninth in total 3-pointers made since the start of December. After his shot just kind of being gone since Brooklyn, frankly,
Yeah.
like he's been back to being an absolutely money 3-point shooter from everywhere and anywhere. He's cut out a lot of his mid-rangers compared to what it is usually. And just really upped his 3-point volume. That's been huge for them and just kind of trying to improve their offense a little bit. But I think to legitimately the biggest thing has been Kyle Anderson. Like Kyle Anderson has completely revamped how they play offensive basketball. And I mean his defense is really good as well, as per usual, but he has made things easier on Ant by being a capable decision maker and distributor. He's made things look better with Rudy. Like he is intentional about getting Rudy the ball in the right spots. He's really the only guy who's consistently finding and hitting lob threats. He just brings pace and control to the offense, which is something that they did not have before they started playing in the position that they have. And it's in a weird point too, because I think with how much they've had to lean into it to play well recently, I don't think they can go away from it. And I'm not saying that they will, but it's like, okay, well, how do they make this work when Cat comes back and when they have the whole lineup together? Are you moving Jaden McDaniels to the bench? Is D'Lo going to the bench? What's happening? Like, I think I have a lot of questions about what that's going to look like. That's not to just like straight up go and like be negative, but I genuinely like, I think it's been a weird thing because like, I don't think a coach other than Chris Finch has tried as many things as he has with his roster.
Yes.
Like
that's a great point.
This team has literally tried everything, which is what's so difficult about them because they've needed to because they couldn't find anything. And I wonder sometimes if it's been to their betterment. Like I don't think it was the wrong decision to keep trying things, but it's at the point too. It's like, okay, well, I don't see how this meshes with Cat, which is what makes it a little bit weird. But it's in an interesting spot because I think like the defense has gotten back to not that it was ever like terrible. The numbers were always still fine, even with them being like, they have very notable rough spots. Excuse me, but they still have a lot of issues guarding 5 out. And I think to me, that's been like, yes, Rudy's a part of that, but I think a lot of that too has been on their guard play. But then offensively, I do think that they're at a point where they have enough answers offensively. And answers on both sides of the ball, frankly. Like they went from Austin Rivers like barely playing to the start of the year to he was pivotal in not shutting down Steph Curry, but making things difficult on Steph Curry. And that win over the Warriors last night, which was just one of the best games of the season. Naz Reid, like again, a weird spot because it's like, okay, well, we're getting all these reports of them looking to potentially move Naz because they are not going to have the money to re-sign him, and they're already pretty stocked in the front court. So it wouldn't necessarily make as much sense to keep him, but he's been really good for them. Like, like I mean, they don't win the game last night without him. He was pivotal. Like his defense has gotten better this year. It's still not great, but I think he moves better.
I think he's pretty okay now.
Yeah, like I would legitimately call him a solid defender. And it's just in a weird spot because it's like exactly like you have these guys who you weren't. I mean, I thought Naz Reid would play a part this year. I thought Kyle Anderson would play a part this year, but not like this. And when it's to the level that they've played with how important they've been too, like even Torian Prince has been really important for this team. And just be like when he's healthy, he at least, again, just brings somebody who moves the ball, hits open shots, and will make rotations on defense. And I think that's what's, again, so difficult about this team is like just having the guys who do the simple things has made them better. But it's also like those aren't necessarily the guys who they need to have be their most important players to a degree.
Yeah.
Or I should say swing players, like the way that they're impacting it. But there's a lot to parse through with this team.
It's a very confusing team. I think I just tweeted, like, I still don't totally understand them. And I guess that, so I like I said, like, I understand why they're winning. I think that like the defense is the critical thing here, right? They're third in the NBA in defensive efficiency over the last 15 games. Jaden McDaniels is flying everywhere. Like, he is
Can I add on J Mac too for a sec?
Yeah.
Because I forgot to mention this. Like, it's not showing up necessarily in his box score, but he's made really big strides as a as like an outlet scorer too. Like, he's really comfortable putting the ball on the floor now in a way that he wasn't before. The touch in the mid range has gotten back to looking like it was when he was a prospect. And honestly, just the finishing in general inside the arc has been really impressive. I still want to see a real jump in him as a 3-point shooter and getting more versatility with that. But like the stuff he's showing inside the arc has been really huge. And I think I glossed over Ant too much. Like, Ant's been really good.
I'm going to get to Ant for sure.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to get to Ant. But I do want to talk about the defense because I think that is the critical thing. Like, I think that the thing that they struggled with early was having D'Angelo Russell and Rudy Gobert ball screen actions, where D'Angelo just is very bad dealing with ball screen actions.
Yeah,
it's his flaw kind of as a player, and I think it's ultimately why they probably shouldn't move forward with him long term as the point guard of this team and as the guy that like has to defend opposing lead guards or anything like that, just given or anyone that's initiating offense in any way, because he does just like kind of die on the vine, and you're going to have to play drop with Rudy, which means that those guys that struggle to recover into the play again, it's a little bit harder. Like, they were successful last season moving him a little bit more off the ball, allowing him to like kind of captain the defense here and there from the back line a little bit more often, having him communicate really well. That's more what he's good at, because he's really a smart player who sees things happen like a step ahead of time. But I think that where he struggles typically is at that screen action. And I think that that's going to be a real problem for them moving forward. And I think it's a problem for them generally now that they're working around. Jaden McDaniels has been incredible kind of making up for that. Like, he is flying all over the place in help defense. He is flying everywhere. He's been a really, really good on-ball defender. I think that like by the end of the season, I don't know that I could vote him all defense right now, just in terms of how loaded that forward group is. Like, you're talking about OG Anunoby, Jaren Jackson, Draymond Green, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Bam Adebayo is the center, but like might get pigeonholed into the forward group, right? Like, it's just crazy how deep the defensive, forward, all defense forward group is. Jaden McDaniels is somewhere in that next tier. And by the end of the year, in terms of value, it would not surprise me if he ended up being in that tier. He's been that big for them defensively so far, just in terms of his ability to cover like 6 different places at once, it feels like, with how long he is and with how well he moves his feet. He's a really, really good defender. And he's really, really helping them a lot. I think they have figured some things out with Rudy, which is big. The Anthony Edwards' defense on the ball has gotten back to a level which is really, really good for them and really, really important. He still has some moments where he kind of falters as a team defender, but that's okay. But they are winning right now with defense, which is big. Offensively, it just feels like they're kind of just getting enough out of it because, like you said, Chris Finch, it feels like hasn't quite figured out what they're best at yet. He keeps just having to throw shit at the wall. And he's been unbelievable doing it in order to manufacture points. The Kyle Anderson piece of this is big. Like, Ant playing as like a point scorer and then being able to like dish off the initiation duties a bit to D'Angelo and to Kyle Anderson has been really important to keep their ball movement flowing, because like The things that Rudy and Jaden McDaniel struggle with oftentimes are moving the ball, right? I think Jaden's gotten a lot better at it, especially over the second half of the season that we've seen so far. I think he's, getting the ball into rotation, moving it a little bit more crisply, making decisions quicker. But it's still not like the thing he's best at. He's best at either shooting a three or attacking a closeout and trying to get to the rim or trying to score, basically. So having Kyle Anderson and D'Angelo Russell out there is big. It's just freed up Ant to do what he does best. And Anthony Edwards, over the course of his last 14 games, is averaging 28 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 47% from the field, 40% from 3 on 9 3-point attempts per game. Anthony Edwards, and by the way, like, you can go all the way back to a 25 game sample where he's averaging 28 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 47% from the field, 38% from 3, 80% from the line, and like a steal and a half per game. Like, he has been, to me, like a genuine superstar-ish level player over the course of this last like 20 to 25 game sample. He's the reason that they're competing. Here is my concern. So if you look at the on-off numbers according to play-by-play stats in terms of lineup data, the Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert lineup, they only beat teams by 0.4 points per 100 possessions. For like a big three where all three of those guys are going to be making the max very, very soon in Ant's case, that's a problem. Like, your big three can't only beat teams by under 1 point per game. You need them to be winning by at least like 6 or 7 if you're like a real title contender. Mm-hmm. Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert without Towns are still a -6 in large part because I think it took them a little bit of time to like cohere and mesh together. But Anthony Edwards without either of those guys on the floor, without Rudy Gobert or Karl Towns on the floor, they're a plus 5.6 right now. So they have been drastically better with it just being Ant. And I don't know what to do with that right now.
Oh, I do feel like a lot of that is just surrounding guys too, finding their way. Like, not to say that it's, I mean, like, obviously a lot of that was like Cat and Rudy was not looking good to start the year. And I'd still have a lot of questions about how it's going to play out. But I do think a lot of that's just been the surrounding talent kind of figuring things out more as things have gone on. But exactly. I mean, like you're mentioning, Ant has made legitimate big strides this year. He has one finishing move, which is a Euro step, and it works almost every time. It's either he gets to the rim or he gets fouled. And I still think like there's stuff that I'd like to see him get to the rim more. But he's been making concerted efforts to really read the defense. I don't think it works all the time. The turnovers have been a big issue. Part of that is him learning things as a young primary. So I'm not trying to be overly harsh with that, but I do think like that's the kind of thing that's going to continue to be like, I want to see that clean up. But I mean, he's legitimately just been incredibly impactful in what he's done and continuing to improve on. But exactly like you're mentioning, like it's all coming without being in, their ideal 5 hasn't played in 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I don't really know what to do with that either. Like, obviously Karl's an extremely talented player, but I don't know how he fits into this when they try and put it back together. Maybe I'm just not, I lack foresight, but it does feel really weird trying to parse through that.
Okay, hear me out. What if you ran him as like in the same role that they're running Kyle Anderson right now? Do you think that Cat can do that?
No, he's not I think
I think he is a pretty good passer. I will say that.
Well, here's my thing. I have long been a Cat supporter. Like, I love Cat. I think he gets way too much shit. I get that he's corny. I don't really particularly care. There's a lot worse things to be than corny. But he has long been hyped as this excellent passer, and he is not. Like, he can make accurate reads and like put the ball in the right spot, but his decision making is pretty bad for somebody who is a high volume ball handler. And I think that's where I would struggle, because Kyle just sees the court so much better and makes way better decisions. Because I think if you try to put the ball in Cat's hands like that, I would just, I mean, that's going to be chaos.
Okay, here's the problem, Mark. What else do you do?
No, I mean, that's a good
That's
point.
kind of
What else do you
my
do?
question. Like, what else do you do? Uh, I don't know. I think it's really, really hard. I think it's really, really hard to find a way to make the Carl Towns, Rudy Gobert fit work. We've seen it on defense. I think it's going to be too easy for teams to exploit that in the playoffs. We've seen it on offense because that's really where they've struggled this year, is trying to integrate those two and then have enough spacing for Anthony Edwards to be able to attack and get downhill in the way that he wants to. I don't know, man. I'm just, this is again why I love watching this team. I think that they are super, super fun. And again, like, I want to talk about Naz Reid here in a second. I find that entire situation incredibly fascinating. I don't know what they do though moving forward. And the good news is that they have Chris Finch, and I think Chris Finch has done a great job this year. I don't think he's just done a good job. I think he has done a great job because they do not have a roster that really works all that well, in my opinion. But he has continued to find little ways to make it work at a really high level. And that's been critical for them throughout the course of the season.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, he's been, like, obviously I'm not privy to all the inside stuff because it feels like part of what's frustrating is so much of their problems felt like just easy shit early on, like stuff
Yeah.
that I mean, like generally lack of effort was a problem for them when they had everybody together. And that's, I never know what to do with that with respect to coaching. But exactly, like, I mean, they're not, I did not expect them to get back above 500, at least like this, I should say, especially with Cat out. I wasn't necessarily anticipating this. So, yes, massive kudos to him. I really enjoy him. I think he, I don't love like saying over and underrated, but I think like largely what he does, I think has gotten swept under the rug a little bit or just not noticed because, you know, the Wolves have been more of butt of jokes this year. But I think that, exactly like you're mentioning, he's not that I think he's necessarily in the coach of the year race because they haven't won enough games for that, but he's done a really good job with him. I agree.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's talk about Naz Reid real quick. Again, this is a situation I don't know what to do with. Like, they realistically, I mean, Naz Reid's probably going to get 10 to 12 million on the
I think he's
market
gonna
at
get
this
more than
point.
that. To be
Has a
honest,
shot for sure.
what was Chris Boucher's deal? Didn't Chris Boucher almost get 84 for over 4?
No,
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 not
no,
84.
no.
What am I talking about? No, sorry. I'm thinking the wrong thing.
Yeah, no,
But
Chris Boucher got, like, basically, you know, I'm trying to do math here, but he got 13 this year, 12
yeah, I
the
was gonna say
next
he got
year,
more than the MLE.
11 the year before.
So
Yeah. Well, it's a descending deal. So it's like basically a 3 for 37 deal.
yeah,
Right. Do I think that Naz Reid beats that? I do. I think he probably gets like,
I think he gets between 15 and 20 a year.
I don't know.
Not that
I
I've
don't
heard
think
anything on it, but that would just be my
yeah,
expectation on how he's playing.
it's going to be tough to, I think, get that for bigs now. But like, then again, Marvin Bagley got 13 a year last year, and Reed is much better than that. You know, he's certainly an effective scorer in a way that, and like a multiple and versatile scorer because he can put the ball on the ground and can actually create plays in a way that Marvin Bagley just has never been able to do. I would say that like mid-level money is probably where now like Naz Reid's going to fit in, right? Let's say could that be 440, 48, 450, something like that? Or maybe it's like 339. So somewhere in that ballpark is what I'm guessing he's going to get. That would mean the Timberwolves are paying something like $90 million to the center position with three guys. And like, I just can't see them doing that. But like, is he so valuable that you just kind of let it rock? Like, is that kind of what you have to do right
I have
now?
no idea. I think that's the problem. Like, I have legitimately no idea what to do with it. Like, if they, I mean, clearly they want to compete this year. Like, and not just this year.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Rudy deal was about competing moving forward, not just this year. This was about maximizing Ant's window, and it's like, I mean, what do you get back for Naz Reid that equates what he's doing? I mean, he is a young player. He's what? Like, I don't even think he's 24 yet. He's
No,
23.
he's
Like,
23. Yeah.
and I mean, that's yeah. I
And he's
it's something
getting
I think
better on
about often
defense.
because
Like
I don't know
he
what to think about
legit,
him.
yeah, like he's getting better on defense. He legit, like you watch him handle the ball. It's awesome. Like he will like attack you from the top of the key, like Euro step inside hand finish at the rim. And it's just like, wait, what the fuck is this? This guy's 6'10, 260 pounds. Like, how the hell does he do this?
Yeah, he's like he's legitimately made massive strides. Like not that he was a bad finisher last year, or the year before, but I mean he's shooting 66% on twos this year. He
Yeah.
like you mentioned, I think the mismatch stuff has been legit for him. Like if like he can actually punish teams, and we saw that against Golden State at times yesterday. Like he is capable of taking guys off the dribble. Like there was a point yesterday where I think Kevon Looney had a fine game, but I think Kevon had a few issues with him getting taken off the dribble.
Yeah.
And then Draymond was guarding him in the post, and he was just too big for him. Like he's aggressive, he goes quick, he doesn't think about it, and he just goes up. And like, not that again, like Draymond, I would take over time, but like in those minute plays when you needed it, like he got it. He was really good.
Yeah.
Um, it's yeah, I don't have an answer for what to do with it because I would not want to trade him.
Well, and like here's the other thing, like what do you get back for him?
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't know what you get back for a big that is on like a 1 year, $1.9 million deal essentially, where you then like I just don't know how to handle this situation, I guess.